People think betrayal starts with a kiss. It doesn't. It starts with a password you're no longer allowed to know. It starts with a two-step verification code that never arrives. It starts when the lockout email says, "We've noticed unusual activity." And you realize the unusual activity is him. My name's Renee, 35. I work in cybersecurity, which means I protect people from the same kind of breach that ruined my marriage. It started innocently enough. I reset his Netflix password after another minor argument about dinner. It's funny how control always begins with small locks. Adam, 37, charming, strategic, works in digital marketing. He cheated 2 years ago, came back 6 months later, reformed, remorseful, rebooted. Now we live together again in a sleek apartment filled with quiet avoidance and good Wi-Fi. When you forgive a cheater, you don't rebuild, you rebrand. But lately, he's been logging in late, typing fast, smiling at screens he turns away too quickly. And I noticed something. He's changed all his passwords. Every single one. I smiled when I saw it. Improved encryption. Same virus. Trust wasn't broken this time. It was updated to a newer, more sophisticated lie. Before you judge me, know this. I didn't take him back because I believed him. I took him back because I wanted to see if I'd stopped caring. Forgiveness wasn't an act of grace. It was an experiment. We did the full recovery package: therapy, date nights, open communication. He gave me access to his phone like a criminal turning himself in. He even volunteered his location. Proof of presence, not proof of loyalty. Transparency, the therapist said, is the first step toward rebuilding trust. But trust isn't a structure. It's a password. Once shared, never safe again. So I treated the relationship like work. By day, I audited security breaches for corporations. By night, I audited emotional ones. We lived efficiently. He cooked. I cleaned. We said goodnight like colleagues finishing a project neither of us fully believed in. Adam became performatively honest, texting me updates, narrating his day like an alibi. Meeting ran late. Grabbing a beer with the guys. Phone might die. People think accountability heals trust. Really, it just keeps score. Sometimes, when I'd catch him glancing at his phone a little too fast, I'd feel the old impulse, that quiet tightening in my chest that says check, confirm, decode. But instead, I'd smile. Because I knew the truth. Every code can be cracked. You just have to want the truth badly enough, and I was getting ready to want it again. Before the first betrayal, our marriage ran on passion and ambition, a perfect mix of chaos and chemistry. We were the kind of couple that looked impressive from the outside, late-night brainstorming over wine, morning arguments about who loved who more, vacations where we answered work emails on the beach. It wasn't balance. It was burnout disguised as compatibility. I met Adam while consulting on a data migration project for his firm. He was charming in the way confident men are when they mistake intensity for depth. He liked that I could see through firewalls. I liked that he didn't flinch when I corrected him in meetings. It felt like partnership, until it didn't. The first breach came quietly, discovered the way most do, by accident. He'd left his work laptop unlocked. A mirrored folder sat on the desktop, neatly labeled, Archive Chunk 2. Inside, screenshots, saved messages, voice notes, photos of hotel rooms and smiles that weren't meant for me. He wasn't even careful. He just assumed I wouldn't go looking. The affair had lasted 6 months. He called it stress. He said she was a coworker who listened, as if infidelity were a therapy session with bad lighting. I left, packed my things in 12 hours, changed the locks, and disappeared into work. He begged, apologized like a man submitting a quarterly report on his own moral failure. He promised therapy, progress, full disclosure. He even sent long emails, modern-day love letters written in bullet points and guilt. And after months of silence, I came back. Not because I believed him, because I wanted to believe me. That I was evolved, rational, capable of forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't growth. It's curiosity in disguise. I wanted to see if love could survive a post-mortem. It couldn't. It just learned how to hide better. What I didn't realize then was that cheaters don't evolve. They adapt. They study the systems they broke, learn your methods, mirror your logic, update their deceit like software patches. And I had just taught him everything he needed to never get caught again. It started small, the kind of digital shift only someone like me would notice. One evening, while Adam was in the shower, I saw his new laptop login screen, a new security prompt, two-factor authentication. The code pinged his work phone, not mine. When I teased him about it later, half joke, half probe, he smiled without looking up from his screen. "Boundaries, babe," he said. Boundaries. That word people use when they start building walls again. The late nights returned soon after. The muted notifications, the battery died excuses followed by, "You worry too much." Same script, new device. I decided to run a test, a little professional curiosity dressed as intuition. I planted a decoy email in his inbox, flagged as urgent. From a name he wouldn't recognize, but one that would sound suspicious enough to tempt him. Within hours, it was gone. Not opened, not replied to, deleted, cleanly, efficiently. Someone else had access, someone who knew what they were doing. That's when I knew he wasn't getting smarter, he was getting help, partnered with someone who spoke my language. Encryption, deletion, control, infidelity evolves. So do investigations. A week later, it arrived. Quietly, efficiently, like every other threat I'd ever been paid to neutralize. An encrypted email. Subject line, "You don't know me, but you should." No sender, no IP, no metadata. Whoever sent it knew exactly how to disappear. I hesitated before opening it. Years of protocol screaming not to. Then curiosity won, as it always does when you've been betrayed before. Inside were screenshots. Adam's messages to another woman, different username, different burner app, time-stamped during his therapy sessions. I scrolled through the thread slowly. The conversation was casual, intimate, but not romantic. The kind of dialogue that only happens between people who've already crossed lines. "I miss our Fridays. Don't text, she's suspicious again. We'll sort it when I'm in the city." I should have felt rage. Instead, I felt verification. Whoever sent this didn't want to ruin him. They wanted me to know. At the bottom of the chain, one line froze me. From him to her. "We have to be careful. She reads everything." Below it, a final message from the stranger. He said you'd never check this inbox. No signature, no explanation, just that. I stared at the screen until the text blurred. For years, I'd hunted leaks in other people's systems. Now someone had exploited mine, my trust, my access, my marriage, with surgical precision. I deleted the email, emptied the trash, closed the laptop. Then I poured a glass of wine and stared at my reflection in the dark window. Another ghost in a network I thought I controlled. I didn't cry. I documented. I didn't confront him. I audited him. That's the difference between emotion and expertise. He thought I'd sit in silence, but silence is just a loading bar. I started with his passwords, variations of old ones, lazy enough to be predictable. Traced his logins, his spending, his cloud storage. Every time he moved money, I moved closer. Revenge isn't anger, it's analytics. The deeper I went, the more the pattern unfolded. Small transfers, irregular but consistent, routed through a crypto wallet he'd opened 6 months ago. The destination was always the same, M. Jensen. The name stung with familiarity. Marla Jensen. He'd mentioned her once, casually. Just a friend from work. But I remembered the voice from therapy. The woman who'd encouraged us to rebuild transparency, who'd told me to trust his effort. Marla. I cross-referenced her number from his phone backups. Same prefix, same tone. She wasn't just his confidant, she was our therapist. I stared at the screen for a long time, hands steady, heart not. I'd been confessing my hurt to the woman cashing it. That was the kind of betrayal you couldn't script. Too cruel for fiction, too clinical for tragedy. But I didn't rage. I planned. He taught me deceit through love. She taught me vulnerability through invoices. Now they could both learn what accountability feels like when the data fights back. I didn't want him to die. I wanted him audited by the universe. And I was ready to file the report. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I compiled. Every transfer, every message, every file that shouldn't exist. The bank records, the hotel bookings, the therapy invoices with Marla's name attached to both our pain and his payments. I encrypted everything into a single folder, No labels, no traceable metadata, just clean, curated evidence. An archive of accountability. Then I sent it. Not to him, to his company's compliance officer. Subject line, potential internal misconduct. Within days, HR began their version of a witch hunt. Polite emails about alleged misuse of funds and unprofessional communication with external contractors. The kind of phrasing that sounds bureaucratic until it ends a career. Adam called me 3 times that morning. By the 4th, I answered. His voice was small, frantic. They're saying someone sent internal data. They're investigating me. Renee, please, you have to help me. I listened. I let him talk. And when he was done, I said nothing. He thought I was the victim again. He forgot I worked in systems. I didn't leak to destroy him. I leaked to correct the record. The wild card came later, when Marla's name appeared in the news. Therapist under investigation for insurance fraud and double billing. Turns out she'd been charging clients twice, once through her practice, once through consulting. The data I sent included her files, collateral damage or poetic justice. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. Neither of them could trace it back to me. I'd scrubbed every signature, buried every timestamp, ghosted every packet. Cheaters forget that deleting history doesn't erase it. It just moves it to archive number 3. When the fallout settled, I packed my things. No drama, no goodbye note, just his old phone left on the counter. Factory reset. I changed my number. I moved into a smaller apartment with fewer outlets and better light. The silence there didn't feel empty. It felt intentional. Sometimes revenge isn't destruction, it's deletion. Months later, my life ran on new systems. New job, new city, new passwords, unshared, unspoken, unguessable. The company I worked for specialized in data integrity. Protect what matters, the onboarding brochure said. I laughed when I read it. Protecting what mattered was what broke me in the first place. People call it paranoia. I call it experience. My days were quiet. Coffee, code, silence. No calls I didn't expect. No messages that made my chest tighten. Just order. Sometimes a phishing email would slip through my filters. We noticed suspicious activity on your account. I'd smile every time, because suspicion had become my baseline, and I'd rather live with awareness than faith. I didn't check up on Adam, didn't Google Marla. The world had its own way of running audits. He swore he'd changed, but cheaters don't change. They just learn better passwords. I stopped being his second chance the day I remembered my worth. Revenge never felt good. It felt fair, measured, accounted for. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about the moment I hit send on that email. The exact second I became the architect of my own justice. It didn't feel like power. It felt like closure disguised as code. One afternoon, I stayed late in the office, watching the IT department run a system purge. Rows of old data flashed on the screen, fragments of deleted lives, purged histories, everything once important reduced to zeros. A clean slate, line by line. I thought about how easy it is to vanish something with one keystroke, and how hard it is to vanish the memory of why you needed to. People think healing is forgiveness. But sometimes, it's pressing delete and meaning it